It is a huge quality of life upgrade to know how to export multiple different clips from the same project file. Let's pretend that I just spent a long time editing my video for YouTube or whatever, and I want to export this first half as its own video and this second half as its own video as well. So let's see what we're working with. There are two ways you can export your videos, and you should already know one of them. Adobe Premiere Pro comes with its own export tab. However, you can also access it here under Export Media. So here we can see that the entire video is here, but we just want to export Greg. So for this example, let's see where this clip of Greg ends. Right around here. And you know what? This is actually kind of tedious. Imagine if this video was 10 minutes long and I wanted to divide it into sections, and I had to adjust this tiny header to find the correct spot. A much easier method is to go back into the timeline under here, and in the timeline, go to the end of the clip, and we can zoom in to make sure. So here is the end of the clip. We can click on these numbers here, and we can do Control-C to copy those numbers. And we can go back to the Export tab. And then here, we click on these numbers again, and do Control-V, Enter, and the header is now at the exact spot that we want it to. So what we do is click on this right bracket, and now the only section of the timeline that will be exported will be the highlighted part. And we can click on Export. And we can do the same exact thing with this clip, except because this clip is in the middle of the timeline instead of the very beginning, we copy its starting position, go to Export again, Control-V, do the bracket there, and then since we know this clip goes all the way to the end, we can just do the same exact thing. And if we had a third clip after this, we could do the same thing with the position of the header. I will now show you a second way to export your video. This is because Adobe Premiere Pro's export function is fairly basic. If you had made a promotional video for a restaurant, and you had a ton of effects like color correction and like crossfades between scenes, and you tried to export it using the Export tab, there is a chance that your computer might not be able to export the video properly and may even crash. A much more stable way to ensure that we export our video and to also adjust further settings in the exported video is to go to File, Export, and Send to Adobe Media Encoder. Adobe Media Encoder is a sister application that pairs very well with Adobe Premiere Pro and Adobe Audition. To adjust our export settings, we need to click here on this blue text beneath the preset option. And it is in the Media Encoder that we can adjust multiple different settings if we wanted to. However, for this example, we do not need to touch most of this. And again, it stresses to repeat, we are using Media Encoder because it is more powerful than Adobe Premiere Pro's Export tab. So we can change the export name, so just how to export. All right, all good. And we can do the same thing here. If we go back to the Premiere Pro tab, go to where the Greg clip ends, copy, go back to Media Encoder, paste, and instead of brackets, in Media Encoder, we have these two triangles that have the same function. We can save these settings, and now we can click on this button to export. And you may have already figured out that whenever you export a project to the Media Encoder, it sends it as a list into the application. Much like the queue you see in a printer, you can adjust each setting, and then you can export everything in the list at once. So this would mean that if you had a really long project that you wanted to cut up into sections, but it still takes a while to export, you can just click on this green button, and the entire queue will export, and you can just walk away from your computer and wait for it to finish.